It was the first week of February. I just handed in my notice and I didn't have a plan B. "What do you think you'll do next?" asked my boss. He was trying to be kind. I sort of grimaced, my eyebrows and shoulders raised, and looked at the floor, lost for words. I didn't know. I decided I'd stay in London. I liked my shared house here off the Holloway Road, living with two other violin makers. I liked the halal butchers, the Greek greengrocers, and the Turkish shop on the Seven Sisters Road that sells everything. I liked playing fiddle at the Lamb on Tuesday nights, where I was quickly made welcome as part of a traditional music session alongside plumbers, joiners, and music teachers from Donegal, Leitrim, and Tipperary, most of whom moved to London in the 1970s. I was going to stay here. I just needed to work out what I was going to do to pay the rent. I decided my next job would tick all the boxes for fulfillment and well-being. It would be sociable. I would be helping other people to reach their full potential. There'd be lots of physical exercise and little stress. I signed up for a week-long course to gain the qualification necessary to take up employment as a swimming pool lifeguard. The course was held in the UCL Students' Union pool during the February half-term week. There were 10 of us, 2 sixth formers from a diving club in Chiswick, a young lady from New Zealand on her gap year, and Elliot, a retired city banker who was doing the course so he could lifeguard the swimming pool at his kids' private school. Despite being the oldest and also most solidly built member of the group, Elliot was also easily the best swimmer, putting the rest of us to shame with his effortlessly efficient front crawl. He had trained for Ironman triathlons in his day. After a lengthy PowerPoint introduction, we went downstairs to the pool to learn the rescues. At their most basic, these involved kneeling at the poolside, throwing a float attached to a strap to a swimmer in trouble. We learned how to swim on our sides, propelling ourselves through the water with one arm, the other firmly wrapped around supporting the casualty, under the shoulders or around the hips. We learned how to swim towing an unconscious casualty, left arm extended, palm under their chin, keeping their mouth and nose clear of the water. We paired up to practice rescuing each other, in the process quickly finding out who was a floater and who was a sinker. We laughed and helped each other and pushed ourselves. We practiced CPR on the dummies and attached the shock pads from an automatic defibrillator. These devices have a recorded voice track which tells you to attach the pads and tells you when to stand clear, all with the crisp diction and received pronunciation of a Radio 4 presenter from the early 1960s. The most involved of the rescues involved taking a casualty with a suspected spinal injury out of the pool. This person would be found floating face down in the water, and you would have to turn them over and get them out to the poolside, lift them up onto the side, obviously trying to keep their spine in one position. And this required a coordinated effort from a team of about 4 lifeguards. And the person who had the casualty's head would coordinate the rest of the lifeguards to make sure that there were no unexpected twists or turns. So when we were practicing this rescue, and one more thing that could happen is when your casualty gets to the poolside, they might start to be sick if they've swallowed water or something. So the instructor will say, your casualty is being sick, and you would turn the patient on, or their casualty onto their side, so they could be sick without choking on it. So we were practicing this rescue, and I was the lead rescuer. I was at the head. And we got our patient out onto the poolside, to which point we were meant to perform this maneuver of turning them onto their side, which is called the log roll. So to coordinate your team, one at the head, one holding across the shoulders, one holding the middle of the torso, one supporting the hips, you would say log roll, 1, 2, 3, and you would all turn the person in one coordinated motion. So we'd reached this stage of the rescue. The instructor says, your casualty's being sick, and I'm at the head, and he looks at me and he says, say the magic words. Now, an instinctive training that I had received much earlier in life kicked in, and without thinking, I looked up at him and said, please. Anyway, Friday came round quickly, and with it, the assessment. We all passed the multiple choice paper. We all remembered to tell the examiner to please call for an ambulance before starting chest compressions on the dummy. We passed our timed swims with a second to spare and dived in at the deep end to rescue the mannequin from the pool floor 3.5 meters down. We all received our NPLQs from the RLSS, and within a month, every leisure centre, gym and health club everywhere was closed indefinitely. I never got to wear the yellow t-shirt with the red shorts. I never sat up high in the white plastic chair, nor blew a lifeguard's whistle. After spending a couple of weeks in Islington Central Library and Finsbury Park Job Centre scrolling through indeed.co.uk, I found a different job by different means. Pushing my bike down a side street in the rain, I saw a man walking out of a residential building carrying a large trapezium-shaped template made of strips of green MDF screwed together. "Excuse me," I asked. "I'm looking for work as a joiner carpenter. You look like you might be doing some interior fitting there. Do you have any idea where I could leave my CV in?" Anna was from Holland and had trained as a boat builder in East Anglia, restoring yachts in boatyards in England and the Netherlands before moving to London. We worked together in his basement workshop building furniture for a month before the lockdown kicked in and he had to stop to look after his kids. But it was enough. I had the wind back in my sails, the spring in my step had sprung, there was a queer stretch in the days, things were looking up. I got another job in a bespoke joinery workshop. My big splash in the leisure industry was looking increasingly unlikely by the day, but I'd got what I needed out of the course. I learned new skills, I swam and cycled every day, developed a huge appetite, and fell into bed exhausted at 9:30 every evening. I felt good about myself and optimistic about the future. And though I hope I will never need to draw on those skills in real life, I'm glad I spent that February week in the basement pool in Bloomsbury, learning how to get a struggling swimmer out of the water.
Oh, Stephen, thanks very much. You're obviously a good man to have around in a crisis.
Depends what kind of crisis, Paul.
Well, if it's a violin crisis.
I seem to have developed a kind of magnetism for those as well, but there you go.
I mean, it's not Parkinson here, but I'm just curious. Can you tell us very quickly about the violin making? What got you into that?
So I've been interested in playing the fiddle since I was about 17, and during a previous story adventure, I trained as a carpenter in the north of Germany, and I'd always had violin making in the back of my mind, but I thought I wasn't artistic enough for it. And when I finished my apprenticeship as a carpenter, I thought, if you're going to have a try at the violin making, now's the time. And I moved to England and went to the New York School of Violin Making and trained there for 3 years.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. That's fascinating, actually. I noticed earlier there were a raft of Ebbinghauses watching from, it looked like somewhere warm and sunny. So
Bangor.
So I take it they are related.
Indeed.
Volker.
Yep, there's Volker and the crew in Bangor, and then there's my sister Sara in sunny Battersea as well, and don't know.
And mother Judith.
Yep.
Who has also been at the 10x9 microphone. So
yep. And I think Sara did tell a story at a Greenbelt 10x9 some years ago as well.
She did, and an excellent story it was too, as was yours. Stephen, thank you so much. Brilliant day.